Something I've been watching in the Pacific has come to fruition. The United States has finished clearing the massive World War II bomber base, fully reclaimed for future Pacific fight. Satellite imagery shows the dramatic restoration of Tinian Island's North Field, a site that also represents targeting challenges for China. North Field on Tinian at one point was the busiest airfield in the world, as you can see from this satellite photograph. Just a year ago, that previous one is 2023. It's 2025 now, so that's 2023, and the one on the right is January 29th. This is the time lapse. You can see an incredible job done by the servicemen and women there getting that ready to go. It's an 80-year-old field that, like I said, was previously one of the busiest airfields on the planet. It is made of crushed coral, and from everything that I've heard, it's pretty much ready to be used, which is amazing to think about. They're also reconstructing the South Field, as you can see in this time lapse. These are to be used as offshoot airfields. In case of an attack, specifically on Guam, aircraft would then fan out to these different airfields. And we're going to go through a video here momentarily that really goes through this succinctly. And this is just a brief history. At the height of operations in 1945, Northfield had 4 8,500-foot-long runways and associated taxiways, ramps, and space for more than 500 B-29s and other facilities to support the approximately 40,000 personnel stationed at the base. This is a picture of Northfield during the war, and as you can see, it is clearly packed chock-a-block full of bombers. Now, would we be able to have 500 aircraft on there currently? Probably not. They'd have to have some kind of revetments or hardened aircraft shelters or something, because you can't have those sitting out in the open like that. And I know the Air Force is against hardened aircraft shelters. I was actually reading a story about that as I was researching this. They're actually against hardened aircraft shelters. But there would be enough ramp space and revetments and parking spots for hundreds of aircraft at Northfield. Hundreds of aircraft at Northfield. This is an F-22 at the Tinian International Airport, which is the South Field, which we were showing here. This is the South Field. That's the Tinian International Airport. And that is where you saw that picture of the F-22. And as we move forward, this is a video. It's a really good video from the Wall Street Journal, and it goes through the purpose of the Tinian Airfield.
On a remote island in the Pacific Ocean, a sprawling U.S. airfield was left largely abandoned. For decades, the 4 runways at the northern edge of Tinian sat empty, swallowed up by the jungle. But now, urgent work is taking place to reclaim them. Military crews are clearing the dense overgrowth to unearth the runways in preparation for a crisis in Asia.
The US hasn't needed this base in decades, but the threat of a conflict with China is rising, and Beijing has developed weapons capable of striking a vast array of targets.
So the Air Force is adapting. The work on this island is one of a chain of projects that will form part of a key shift in America's military blueprint.
So what my team had to do was go through the jungle, find these coordinates on a GPS, and mark them for the boundary of the airfield. Normally what we have is a stick or machetes to be able to tear down and make a pathway through the jungle. And this is what part of the battle that we fought every day was, going through the jungle to mark these points the entire day, through the rain, through the humidity, and the heat of the day.
Sergeant Branson's team spent months battling through the dense forest on Tinian. On some days, they cleared areas the size of multiple American football fields until Tinian's runways were uncovered.
Over the last 60 days, it's really, what they have opened up is really monumental. It's crazy how fast they've done it.
Major Rothschild's team is tasked with clearing years of overgrowth from the runways.
This is runway Charlie, and when we got here, if you look to your left and to your right, it was completely covered. As you can see now, looking this way behind us, it's completely opened up, and our team is really just the first step in this process to successfully adaptively rehabilitate these runways in Tinian Northfield, and that'll really be a part of history for not only Tinian Northfield, the island of Tinian itself, and really the world as we move forward.
Once one of the busiest airfields in the world, Tinian's runways hosted large numbers of American bombers that struck targets in Japan during World War II. The atomic bombs the US dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were loaded here. In the decades after the war, the picture changed and the US no longer needed airfields like Tinian's. That era has ended. US officials believe China wants to be ready by 2027 to carry out an invasion of Taiwan. Beijing sees the island as a breakaway province that it has vowed to bring under its control, by force if necessary. To deter China and prepare for possible conflict, the US is turning to an approach called Agile Combat Employment, or ACE. This means that if the US's large bases were under threat, its aircraft could fan out to a network of smaller sites. As part of ACE, the US has identified airfields across the region that could be capable of receiving US forces, including a longer string of islands known as the Second Island Chain.
Again, I want to point out the need for concrete reinforced aircraft shelters on these sites. Plus, we're going to need anti-air and anti-missile defense systems like you've never seen before on all of these islands.
That includes civilian runways and military airstrips. The Air Force needs these sites to have at least 7,000 feet of runway. These airfields form a new network of austere locations, some of which will be clustered around larger existing hubs on islands such as Guam. Should war with China break out, the Air Force would scatter aircraft from its larger hubs across the region. The strategy is designed to combat Beijing's ability to threaten the US's larger bases. This video, released by the Chinese Air Force, shows a nuclear-capable bomber launching a simulated attack on what appears to be Andersen Air Force Base on Guam. As the US's main airbase in the Second Island Chain, Andersen is crucial to America's ability to project power in the Indo-Pacific.
And the United States has spent billions of dollars fortifying Guam, reactivating portions of alternate fields on Guam, installing missile defense systems on Guam, THAAD, Aegis Ashore, things such as that. Those things will have to also be installed on Tinian, Yap, Peleliu. Wherever we're going to be, we're going to need missile defense systems.
This base on Guam would be an important staging point for the US in any conflict in the region, and that makes it a significant target.
To better protect Guam, the military plans to have a layered missile defense network incorporating THAAD, Patriot, and Aegis systems. But even the most advanced defense systems might not be enough to stop an attack, so there's a new focus on making US aircraft harder to take out by dispersing them.
What we're looking at for agile combat employment is to take logistics from the hub, whether that's personnel, cargo, aircraft, move them to another location, an austere location normally, whether it's on an island or a different area, and then operate out of there. So can you spoke out and then have a sustaining force from that area and then be able to come back to the hub or use the hub to supply your logistics?
The need for greater agility has emerged from dramatic advances in China's capabilities. Beijing has rapidly expanded its arsenal of missiles. That includes the DF-26, an intermediate-range ballistic missile known as the Guam Killer, and hypersonic missiles like the DF-17.
In my video, titled Battle of the Six Seas, the Future War in the Southwest Pacific. This is a video I did a couple months ago. I go into great detail about the specifics regarding the threats to American shipping, American vessels, and American bases in the region. We go through the missiles, that China has, their possible implementation, U.S. response, and things like that. And I encourage everyone to check out that video, Battle of the Six Seas, the Future War in the Southwest Pacific. When we're talking about hundreds of missiles, DF-26s and DF-17s, hypersonic glide vehicles, ballistic missiles. We need SM-6 production to boot up big time.
China is also believed to be developing hypersonic missiles designed to reach the second island chain. Unlike a traditional ballistic missile, which follows a predictable trajectory, hypersonic missiles can change direction mid-flight, making them much harder to shoot down. That means Anderson is at risk. So the Air Force is building more options to spread out aircraft. On the island's northwest field, additional facilities are being built and disused airstrips are being revived to expand the number of landing sites.
We want to stay flexible, stay agile, make sure that we can meet the needs of the mission, and this is just another way of getting after that. 2 is better than 1, 6 is better than 5, so just increasing our numbers, our capability, and allowing different aircraft to land, take off, and improve the overall capability here on Anderson Air Force Base and Northwest Field.
The work on Guam and revival of Tinian's forgotten airfield next door are part of an immense US effort that stretches to remote corners of the Pacific. The result will be a contingency strategy on a sweeping scale. America left this airfield to the jungle, confident it was no longer needed. Soon, it may be of vital importance once more.
Thank you to the Wall Street Journal for a very good video, very informative, with a lot of good information. And as you saw, they're expanding fields on Guam. They've obviously been expanding North Field on Tinian. This is I'm just going to skim through this real quick. Our first look at land-based Aegis missile defense system on Guam. We've installed Aegis Ashore on Guam. Aegis Ashore is an incredible system. Take the capabilities of the Aegis combat system and the Spy 1 radar that we have on our Arleigh Burke and Ticonderoga class ships and put it ashore. Tie it in with an SM-3 Block 2 or the SM-6. The SM-6 missile being the most capable of the standard missile series. We've used a whole bunch of those against the fight with the Houthis. This is what it looks like with the Aegis Ashore facility in Poland as of 2013. And it gives you kind of an idea of what it looks like, its physical space requirements, things such as that. This is the actual Aegis Ashore defense battery on Guam. This is when it was being tested. Tilting Mark 41 launcher emerges during Guam's first Aegis Ashore missile defense test. All these systems need to be on Tinian as well. Guam, Tinian, Palau, Yap, wherever else we're going to be doing this, these systems have to follow. Plus we have to also consider directed energy weapons at all these facilities too, which is going to open up a new kettle of fish. Are we going to allow small nuclear reactors to be transported around to these islands or not? That's another problem for another day. But for right now, Tinian is open for business. North Field has been reclaimed from the jungle. 4 8,500-foot long runways and ramps for hundreds of aircraft are now available for the United States to utilize whenever necessary. Now we just have to build up the base, its infrastructure, its logistics chain, personnel, and we'll be good to go. I've been watching this for a little while, and I'm glad to see that this has come to fruition, and it happened fast. It happened very fast. I'll be looking forward to video tours of the completed facility soon. And with that, I thank you. I appreciate you swinging in here and listening to this. If you like it, please hit the subscribe button. Maybe share it with a friend. And I will catch you next time. Thank you.